It was a regular Saturday afternoon in October, the kind where the air smells like fallen leaves and everything feels calm. Vincent Chen was pushing a shopping cart through the grocery store, the fancy kind on the Upper East Side where everything costs twice what it should. His daughter, little Lily, sat in the cart's child seat, swinging her legs and humming a song she'd learned at school. Vincent was 42 years old and had more money than he ever dreamed possible when he was younger. He owned a tech company that helped hospitals manage their systems better. People called him a millionaire, though he never felt comfortable with that word. Money didn't erase the memories of sleeping in his beat-up Honda 20 years ago, wondering where his next meal would come from. These days, though, life was different. He had a penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. He drove a Tesla. He wore suits that cost more than he used to make in a month. But none of that mattered as much as the little girl in his shopping cart, the one with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile that could light up his darkest days. Lily was 6 years old and the center of Vincent's entire world. Her mother, Christine, had died the day Lily was born, complications during delivery, the doctors had said, using words that didn't soften the blow. Vincent had held his newborn daughter in one arm and said goodbye to his wife with the other hand. For 6 years it had been just the two of them against the world. "Daddy, can we get the cookies with the chocolate chips?" Lily asked, pointing at a display. "Sure, sweetheart. Grab a bag." Vincent was comparing prices on coffee beans, something he still did out of habit even though he could afford any brand, when Lily suddenly gasped. It wasn't a scared gasp or a hurt gasp. It was the sound of pure, unexpected joy. "Daddy! Daddy, look!" Before Vincent could turn around, Lily had somehow twisted in the cart seat and was climbing out. He dropped the coffee and grabbed her, but she was already reaching toward something, someone, her little arms stretched out like she'd found a long-lost friend. "Lily, careful, you can't just—" But she wasn't listening. She'd spotted a teenage boy stocking shelves 3 aisles over, and nothing was going to stop her from getting to him. Vincent caught her just as she wriggled free and took off running, her light-up sneakers flashing with every step. "Lily, stop right now!" Vincent chased after her, his leather dress shoes slipping slightly on the polished floor. Other shoppers turned to stare. An elderly woman pulled her cart aside. A store employee started walking toward them, probably thinking they were dealing with a shoplifting situation. Lily reached the teenage boy and wrapped her small arms around his leg, holding on tight like she'd never let go. The boy looked down, startled, dropping a can of tomato sauce that bounced on the floor without breaking. He was tall and lean, maybe 16 or 17, wearing the store's employee vest over a gray hoodie. His dark hair fell over his forehead and he had earbuds dangling around his neck. Hey there, kid," the teenager said, gently trying to unwrap her arms. "I think you've got the wrong person." But Lily wasn't letting go. She looked up at him with absolute certainty in her eyes, then turned to Vincent, who had just reached them out of breath and confused. And that's when she said it, the words that would change everything. "Daddy, that's my brotherly kin." Vincent froze. The entire store seemed to freeze with him. Time did that weird thing where it slows down and speeds up at the same time. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. He looked at the teenage boy properly for the first time. Really looked at him. The boy had eyes the color of honey mixed with green, an unusual shade that Vincent saw in the mirror every single morning. There was a small cleft in his chin, barely noticeable, but Vincent's fingers unconsciously touched his own chin where the same cleft had been since birth. The boy's nose had that same slight curve to the left that Vincent's father used to joke about, saying all Chen men had noses that pointed toward trouble. But it was more than individual features. It was the whole picture. The way the boy stood with his weight slightly on his left leg, the way his eyebrows drew together when he was confused, the way he bit his lower lip. Vincent was looking at himself. Himself at 16. Himself before everything changed, before the money, before the success, before the suits in the penthouse. He was looking at the kid who used to work 2 jobs and still couldn't make rent. The kid who loved computers and dreamed of building something that mattered. "Sir, is everything okay?" A manager had appeared, a middle-aged woman with concerned eyes and a name tag that read Helen. "Is your daughter bothering our employee?" Vincent couldn't speak. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His hands were shaking. The paper shopping list he'd been holding fell to the floor. The teenager looked uncomfortable now, glancing between Vincent, Lily, and the manager. It's okay, Mrs. Patterson. The little girl just got confused, I think. Maybe I look like someone she knows? But his voice cracked when he said it. Because he was looking at Vincent now, too. Really looking. And Vincent could see the moment when something clicked in the boy's mind. Some recognition he didn't understand. Couldn't possibly understand. What's your name? Vincent finally managed to ask. His voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. The teenager hesitated. Diego Reyes. How old are you, Diego? I'll be 17 in January. Sir, are you okay? You look really pale. Vincent's legs felt weak. He reached for the shelf to steady himself, accidentally knocking over a row of pasta boxes. They clattered to the floor, and now more people were staring. Whispers spreading through the store. Daddy? I told you, Lily said, still holding Diego's hand now, her voice full of childish confidence. He's my brother. I can feel it in my heart. Kids say crazy things all the time. They have imaginary friends. They believe in magic. But sometimes Vincent thought as he stared at this boy who had his eyes, his chin, his stance. Sometimes kids see the truth that adults have buried too deep to recognize. Diego, is your mother's name Elena? Vincent asked, the name rising from a place in his memory he'd locked away 17 years ago. Diego's eyes went wide. How do you know my mom's name? The store lights suddenly felt too bright. Vincent's vision blurred at the edges. His knees buckled and he grabbed the shelf harder, pasta boxes tumbling around his feet. The manager rushed forward and Diego dropped the can he was holding to reach out and steady Vincent. For a moment, father and son held each other up without knowing it. Their hands touched, and Vincent felt like he'd been struck by lightning. Because he knew, deep in his soul, in that place where the truth lives even when we don't want to face it, he knew. This boy was his son. The son he never knew existed. The son who was supposed to be impossible because Elena had disappeared without a word, without a trace, leaving only a note that said she had to go back home to Puerto Rico for a family emergency. She'd promised to call. She never did. Vincent had tried to find her, but he'd been homeless within a month, his phone disconnected, his whole life falling apart. He'd assumed she'd moved on, found someone better, someone who had a future. He never imagined this. Never imagined her carrying his child while he slept in parking lots and ate from dollar menus. Never imagined a son growing up somewhere in the city while Vincent built his empire from nothing, driven by ghosts and regrets he couldn't name. Sir, I'm calling an ambulance, the manager said. Her phone already out? No, Vincent said, finding his voice. No ambulance. I just need to sit down. Diego helped guide him to a bench near the checkout lanes. Lily followed, still holding Diego's other hand, refusing to let go of her newfound brotherly kin. People were recording on their phones now. Tomorrow this would probably be all over social media. Millionaire has meltdown in grocery store. But Vincent didn't care about any of that. He looked up at Diego, at this young man who had his blood running through his veins and felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't even try to stop them. Diego, Vincent said quietly, I need to talk to your mother. As soon as possible. It's important. More important than anything. Diego looked scared now, protective. Why? What's this about? Did she do something wrong? No, Vincent said quickly. No, nothing like that. I knew her a long time ago, before you were born. And I think there's something we all need to talk about. The teenager studied Vincent's face for a long moment. Whatever he saw there must have convinced him because he slowly nodded and pulled out his phone. I'll text her, Diego said. But if this is some kind of weird thing, my stepdad Carlos will... Stepdad? Vincent interrupted. Yeah, my mom married him when I was little. Why? Vincent closed his eyes. Of course. Of course Elena had moved on, built a life, given their son a father. What else would she have done? He'd been gone, disappeared into his own nightmare. She couldn't have known he'd climb out of it, that he'd become someone who could provide for a child. But the fact remained, sitting right in front of him with worried hazel eyes and a cleft chin. The fact remained that Vincent had a son, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 hours later, Vincent sat in a small cafe in the Bronx, a place so different from his usual spots in Manhattan that it felt like stepping into another world. The coffee shop was called La Esperanza, and it had colorful murals on the walls and the smell of fresh bread mixing well. With espresso, salsa music played softly from speakers in the corners. His hands were still shaking. He'd gone home, dropped Lily off with his neighbor Mrs. Kim, who sometimes watched her when he had emergency meetings. Then he'd driven across town in rush hour traffic, his mind racing faster than the cars around him. Elena Reyes walked through the door at exactly 6 o'clock. Vincent recognized her immediately, even though 17 years had added lines around her eyes and silver threads through her black hair. She'd been 23 when he knew her, working as a waitress at a diner where he'd washed dishes. She'd been beautiful then, with quick hands and a quicker laugh. She was beautiful now too, but in a different way. Tired, careful. She spotted him at the corner table and stopped walking. Her hand went to her mouth. For a second, Vincent thought she might turn around and leave. But then she squared her shoulders and walked over, sliding into the seat across from him. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. The waiter came by and Elena ordered coffee in Spanish. Vincent asked for the same, even though he couldn't taste anything with his heart hammering like this. "I heard what happened at the store," Elena finally said. Her voice was quieter than he remembered. "Diego called me right away. He's confused, scared. He wanted to cancel this meeting, but I told him I needed to come. He has my eyes," Vincent said. It was all he could think to say. Elena's own eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "Yes, he does. He has a lot of your features, actually. I see you in him every single day. Why didn't you tell me?" Vincent asked. He tried to keep his voice steady, but it cracked anyway. "Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" Elena looked down at her hands, clasped tight around her coffee cup. "Do you remember what your life was like back then, Vincent? Really remember it?" He did, God, he did. He'd been 25 years old and drowning. He'd dropped out of college when his parents died in a car accident, leaving him with nothing but debt and grief. The small apartment he'd shared with 2 roommates had fallen through when he couldn't make rent. His car became his home. 2 minimum-wage jobs barely kept him fed. "I was dating you," Elena continued, her voice soft but firm. "For 3 months we saw each other when we could. You were sweet, funny, smart. But Vincent, you were sleeping in your car. You'd lost so much weight I could see your ribs. I watched you choose between buying food and buying gas, and then I found out I was pregnant." Vincent felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. "So you just left? Just disappeared?" "I tried to tell you," Elena said, and now the tears did fall, sliding down her cheeks. "I tried 3 times, but every time I opened my mouth I looked at you and saw a man who was barely surviving. How could I add a baby to that? How could I tell you I needed prenatal care and baby supplies when you didn't know where you'd sleep that night?" "That wasn't your choice to make," Vincent said, but his voice had lost its edge. Because he understood. Horribly, painfully he understood. "Maybe not," Elena agreed. "But I made it anyway. I went back to Puerto Rico where my family was. My mother helped me. My sister sent money. I had Diego in a hospital in San Juan, surrounded by people who loved me. And I gave him the best life I could." Vincent's jaw tightened. "You could have found me later, when things were better." "I tried." Elena's voice rose, then she caught herself, glancing around the cafe. She continued quieter. "When Diego was 3, I came back to New York. I went to the diner. They said you'd left years ago. I went to the last address I had for you. Different people lived there. I searched online. Do you know how many Vincent Chens there are in New York City? I changed my name," Vincent admitted. "Legally. When I started my company. I wanted a fresh start, something that didn't carry all the baggage. I go by Vincent Chen Morgan now. The Morgan was my mother's maiden name." Elena stared at him. "You changed your name." "I was trying to become someone new, someone successful. I thought if I could just shed the old me, the failure, I could build something that mattered." "Well, you did," Elena said, and there was something bitter in her voice now. "Diego showed me your picture on his phone. I looked you up. Tech millionaire, big apartment, fancy life. Everything you wanted, everything except him," Vincent said quietly. That stopped her. They sat in silence while the salsa music played and other customers chatted around them. The waiter brought them empanadas they hadn't ordered with a wink that said they were on the house. "I met Carlos when Diego was 1, Elena said eventually. "He worked construction, made decent money. He was kind. He loved Diego like his own son from day 1. Never asked questions about Diego's father. Just stepped up and became the dad Diego needed." Vincent felt a stab of something ugly and jealous in his chest. Another man had raised his son, Another man had been there for the first steps, the first words, the first day of school. All the things Vincent had done with Lily he'd missed with Diego. Does Diego know? Vincent asked. About me? Elena shook her head. Carlos and I told him that his biological father wasn't in the picture. That sometimes people are too young or not ready to be parents. Diego's always called Carlos Dad. It's been enough. Until today. Until today, Elena repeated. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. Vincent, what do you want? Why did you ask me here? To yell at me? To blame me? I want to know my son, Vincent said simply. I want a DNA test to confirm what we both already know. And then I want to figure out how to be part of his life. Elena's face went pale. You can't just walk in and disrupt everything. He has a family. A good family. Carlos has been his father for 16 years. And I'm his father by blood, Vincent shot back. Doesn't that count for something? Does it? Elena challenged. Does biology automatically make you more important than the man who taught Diego to ride a bike? Who sat up with him when he had nightmares? Who goes to every single one of his robotics club meetings even though he doesn't understand half of what they're doing? Robotics club? Vincent felt another pang. Diego liked robotics. Like father, like son, the son he'd never gotten to know. I'm not trying to replace Carlos, Vincent said, trying to be reasonable even though everything in him was screaming. But Elena, I have a daughter. Diego has a sister. She knew somehow. The second she saw him, she knew. She called him her brotherly kin. Elena's expression softened slightly at that. Diego mentioned your daughter. Said she was sweet, that she wouldn't let go of his hand. Her name is Lily, she's 6. She's never had siblings, never had extended family. It's just been us since her mother died. Vincent's voice caught. She deserves to know her brother. And Diego deserves to know the truth. The truth, Elena said bitterly. The truth is complicated. The truth is that I made the best choice I could with the information I had 17 years ago. The truth is that Diego has a good life and you could destroy it. Or I could make it better, Vincent argued. I could help with college. I could mentor him. You could buy him? Elena interrupted, her voice sharp. Is that what this is? The rich man comes in and throws money around until everyone falls in line? Vincent recoiled like he'd been slapped. That's not fair, isn't it? You have all the power here, Vincent. You could take me to court, force a DNA test, fight for rights you didn't even know you had until this afternoon. You could afford lawyers that I can't. You could make our lives hell. I would never, wouldn't you? Elena leaned forward. You're angry. You feel cheated. You think I stole something from you, and maybe I did. But I was 23 and pregnant and scared, and I made a choice. Not the perfect choice, maybe not even the right choice, but a choice that kept my baby safe and healthy. Can you understand that? Vincent sat back in his chair. Could he understand it? He thought about the nights he'd spent in his car, shivering under a thin blanket, wondering if he'd ever climb out of the hole his life had become. If Elena had told him about Diego, then what would he have done? What could he have done? I would have tried, he said finally. I would have found a way. Maybe, Elena said. Or maybe you would have crumbled under the pressure. Or maybe we both would have ended up on the streets with a baby. I couldn't take that risk. They sat in heavy silence. Vincent's empanada had gone cold. He picked at it anyway, needing something to do with his hands. What does Diego know about today? Vincent asked. I told him I knew you from a long time ago. That we used to date, that's all. He's going to figure it out, Vincent said. He's smart. I could tell from talking to him for 5 minutes. He's going to do the math. Elena nodded slowly. I know. Carlos and I talked about it on the phone before I came here. He's not happy. He feels threatened. Like he's going to lose his son. He won't, Vincent said. I don't want to take Diego away from anyone. I just want to know him. But that's the thing, Vincent. You can't just know him a little bit. You can't dip your toe in the water of parenthood when it's convenient. If you do this, if we tell him the truth, it changes everything. For all of us. For your daughter, too. Are you ready for that? Was he ready? Vincent thought about Lily. Sweet Lily who'd called Diego her brotherly kin without hesitation. Was he ready to explain to her why her brother lived across town with a different family? Was he ready to share weekends and holidays? Was he ready to navigate the complicated dynamics of a blended family that was never supposed to? Exist? I don't know, Vincent admitted. But I know I can't pretend I didn't see him today. I can't unsee my own eyes looking back at me from my son's face. Elena wiped her eyes again. Diego wants to meet you, properly. Carlos doesn't like it, but Diego's almost 17. He's asking questions. He wants answers. Vincent's heart leaped. When? Tomorrow, Sunday. There's a park near where we live. Diego likes to shoot basketball there in the afternoons. You could accidentally run into him. Accidentally. I'm not ready to tell him everything yet, Elena said firmly. Neither is Carlos. We need time to figure out how to do this right. But if you and Diego happen to talk, if you get to know each other a bit first, maybe that makes the truth easier when it comes. It wasn't what Vincent wanted. He wanted to grab his son and hold him and tell him everything right now. But he understood. This wasn't just about what he wanted. This was about a teenage boy whose world was about to shift under his feet. Okay, Vincent agreed. Tomorrow, the park. What time? Around 2. He usually stays for a couple hours. Elena stood up, gathering her purse. Vincent, promise me something. What? Promise me you'll think about what's best for Diego. Not what makes you feel better about missing 16 years. Not what satisfies your guilt or your anger. What's actually best for him. Vincent stood too. I promise. Elena studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. She started to walk away, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't find a way to tell you. I'm sorry you missed so much. But I'm not sorry Diego exists, and I'm not sorry for the life I gave him. I'm not either, Vincent said softly. At least not the first part. After she left, Vincent sat back down. He stayed in that cafe for another hour, drinking cold coffee and thinking about the impossibility of it all. Yesterday morning, he'd woken up a father of 1. Now he was a father of 2, with 17 years of catching up to do and no map for how to do it. His phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Kim. Lily keeps asking when her brother is coming over. What should I tell her? Vincent stared at the message. What should anyone tell her? The truth was too complicated. A lie felt wrong. But the simple fact was that Lily had seen something the rest of them had been blind to. She'd recognized family where family wasn't supposed to be. He typed back, tell her soon. Tell her we're figuring it out, because they were. Somehow they would figure it out. They had to. Vincent showed up at the park at 1:30, too anxious to wait. It was a neighborhood park in the Bronx, nothing fancy. There was a basketball court with chain nets, a small playground where younger kids climbed on equipment that had seen better days, and a few benches under trees that had already dropped most of their leaves. He sat on a bench with a cup of coffee he wasn't drinking, watching the basketball court. A few teenagers were already there playing a pickup game. Diego wasn't among them yet. Vincent had barely slept. He'd spent half the night researching paternity tests, custody laws, and parental rights. The information he found wasn't encouraging. Because he'd never established paternity when Diego was born, because another man had been listed as the father on the birth certificate, Vincent's legal position was weak. Even with DNA proof, a judge would consider Diego's best interests first. And Diego had spent 16 years with Carlos as his father. That counted for a lot. But Vincent wasn't thinking about court battles. Not really. He was thinking about the way Diego had reached out to steady him when his knees buckled in the grocery store. The way the teenager's eyes had gone wide with concern. That instinct to help, to care. That came from somewhere real. At exactly 2 o'clock, Diego appeared at the park entrance. He wore basketball shorts and a faded t-shirt from some coding camp. He had a ball under one arm and earbuds in his ears. He didn't see Vincent at first, just headed straight for the court where his friends were playing. Vincent watched him move. Watched the easy athleticism. The casual confidence of a kid who knew where he belonged. Diego joined the game, and within minutes it was clear he was good. Not just good, but really talented. He moved like water, smooth and quick, sinking shots that made his friends groan and laugh. After about 30 minutes, Diego called for a break and headed to the water fountain near where Vincent sat. This was it. The moment Vincent had been planning all morning. The casual encounter that was anything but casual. Diego drank from the fountain, then turned and nearly walked right into Vincent. Oh, sorry, man, Diego stopped mid-sentence. Recognition flashed across his face. You're the guy from the store. From yesterday. Vincent stood up, trying to look surprised even though his heart was pounding so hard he felt dizzy. Diego, right? Sorry about all that. My daughter gets very excited sometimes. Diego smiled awkwardly. It's cool. She was really sweet. Is she okay? She seemed pretty convinced I was her brother or something. There it was. The opening. Vincent could walk away right now, laugh it off as a child's imagination. Or he could take one step closer to the truth. She's fine. Very insistent, though. Keeps asking about you. Vincent gestured to the bench. Do you have a minute? I wanted to apologize properly. Maybe explain a bit. Diego hesitated, glancing back at his friends on the court. But curiosity won out. Yeah, sure. Just for a minute. They sat down, and for a moment neither spoke. Vincent could see his own features so clearly in this boy. The shape of his ears, the way he bounced his knee when he sat still, little genetic echoes that felt like shouting. So, my mom said she knows you. Diego started. From way back. Yeah. We dated briefly when we were younger. Before you were born, actually. Diego processed this. That's kind of weird. What are the chances we'd run into each other at random? Pretty small, Vincent admitted. New York's a big city, but sometimes it feels small. My mom was acting strange last night, Diego said. There was something in his voice, a carefulness that suggested he was testing the waters. She seemed really upset after she met with you. Carlos, my dad, he was upset too. Vincent's chest tightened at hearing Diego call Carlos dad. I didn't mean to upset anyone. It was just a shock seeing your mom after all these years. We didn't part on the best terms. That was true enough, even if it left out the most important part. Can I ask you something? Diego said suddenly. And you can tell me if it's none of my business. Sure. Why did you look at me like that in the store? Like you'd seen a ghost or something. My mom said you and her dated for like 3 months max. That was 17 years ago. So why did you look like your world just ended when you saw me? The kid was sharp. Too sharp to fool with half-truths and convenient omissions. Vincent felt the weight of Elena's request to wait, to give them time. But sitting here next to his son, he also felt the weight of lies by omission. You look like someone I used to know, Vincent said carefully. Someone from my family. It caught me off guard. Who? Your brother or something? Something like that. Diego studied Vincent's face. You know what's weird? When I saw you yesterday, I felt it too. Like I knew you from somewhere, even though I know we've never met. My friends say I'm crazy, but it was like déjà vu or something. Maybe that's what my daughter picked up on, Vincent suggested. Kids are perceptive about things adults miss. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the basketball game continue without Diego. Your daughter called me her brotherly kin, Diego said with a small laugh. That's such a kid way to say it. Does she have any actual siblings? No, it's just her and me. Her mom died when she was born. Diego's expression shifted to sympathy. Man, I'm sorry. That's rough. You've been raising her alone? Yeah, 6 years now. Best 6 years of my life, though, even with the hard parts. What do you do? For work, I mean. I run a tech company. We make hospital management software. Diego's eyes lit up. No way, that's so cool. I'm into coding and stuff. I'm in the robotics club at school, and we're building this automated system for... He stopped himself. Sorry, I get nerdy about this stuff. Vincent smiled, a real smile that felt like it might crack his face open. Don't apologize. I'm nerdy about it too. What kind of automated system? For the next 20 minutes, they talked about code and robots and the problem with certain programming languages. Diego's whole face changed when he talked about technology. He became animated, using his hands, leaning forward with excitement. Vincent saw himself at that age falling in love with computers because they made sense when nothing else did. Your friends are waving at you, Vincent said eventually, nodding toward the basketball court where 3 teenagers were gesturing at Diego to come back. Oh, yeah. Diego stood up, grabbing his basketball. This was cool, though. I don't usually get to talk about this stuff with adults who actually understand it. My dad, Carlos, he tries, but he's more of a hands-on guy. Building things with wood and metal, you know? Code might as well be magic to him. Different kinds of intelligence, Vincent said. Both valuable. Yeah. Diego shifted his weight like he wanted to say something else but wasn't sure if he should. Hey, could I ask you one more thing? Of course. When you dated my mom back before I was born, were you around when she found out she was pregnant? The question hit Vincent like a physical blow. This was it. The moment where the truth started forcing its way out, whether they were ready or not. No, Vincent said honestly. I wasn't around. Things were complicated back then. Diego nodded slowly. My mom's never really talked about my biological father. Just said he was young and not ready. Carlos has been my dad since I was little. He's a good guy. I'm sure he is, but sometimes I wonder, what the other guy was like. If I got any of my interest from him, if he thinks about me. Diego looked embarrassed. That sounds stupid. It doesn't sound stupid at all, Vincent said, his voice thick with emotion he was struggling to contain. It sounds completely natural. Anyway, I should get back to the game. Diego started walking backward toward the court. Maybe I'll see you around sometime? If you ever want to talk about code or whatever, I work at that grocery store most Saturdays. I'd like that, Vincent said. And Diego? For what it's worth, I'm sure your biological father thinks about you. I'm sure he thinks about you all the time. Diego gave him a strange look, like he was trying to solve a puzzle that didn't quite fit together. Then he smiled and jogged back to his friends. Vincent sat on that bench for another hour, watching Diego play basketball. The kid was good at that too. Good at everything, probably. 16 years of growing and learning and becoming someone, and Vincent had missed all of it. His phone rang. It was his lawyer returning the call Vincent had made that morning. Vincent, I looked into what you asked about. Establishing paternity after 16 years with no prior legal claim is complicated. How complicated? You'd need the mother's cooperation for a simple DNA test. If she refuses, you'd have to petition the court, which could take months. And even with proof, your parental rights aren't automatic. The court considers the child's established relationships, their wishes, and their best interests. What are my chances? Of gaining some form of custody or visitation? Maybe 50-50 if you're lucky and everyone cooperates. Of disrupting the kid's current life? 100%. Vincent, I have to ask, is this really what you want? To potentially put a teenager through a legal battle? Vincent watched Diego laugh at something one of his friends said. Watched him high-five another kid after making a shot. No, that's not what I want. Then what do you want? I want to know my son. I want him to know the truth. And I want to do it in a way that doesn't destroy the life he already has. That's a tall order. You might need to accept that you can't have everything you want here. After the call ended, Vincent sat with that truth. He couldn't have everything. He couldn't get back 16 years. He couldn't undo Elena's choice or his own absence. But maybe he could build something new. Something that worked for Diego, even if it wasn't perfect for Vincent. His phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Carlos and I talked. We're going to tell Diego the truth, but we need to do it our way, in our time. Please don't push, Vincent texted back. How long? A week, maybe 2. We need to prepare him, and ourselves. 2 weeks felt like forever. But Vincent thought about that kid on the basketball court, happy and confident and whole. Did he have the right to shatter that for his own needs? He texted back, okay, but I met him today. At the park. We talked. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, what did you tell him? Nothing. Just that I knew you years ago. We talked about computers and coding. A long pause, then. He called me. Said he met a really cool guy who understands technology. He sounded happy. Vincent felt something warm spread through his chest. He's incredible, Elena. You've raised someone special. We've raised someone special. Carlos and me. Don't forget that. Vincent looked at the basketball court where Diego was still playing, the autumn sun slanting through the trees, and he knew Elena was right. This wasn't about him. This had never been about him, but it was about that kid on the court. The one with Vincent's eyes and Elena's determination and Carlos's kindness. The one who was about to learn that his whole understanding of who he was had been missing a piece. Vincent just hoped that when Diego learned the truth, he'd understand why everyone had kept it from him. He hoped Diego would see it as protection rather than betrayal. He hoped a lot of things. But hope, Vincent was learning, was different from certainty. And in this situation, certainty was the one thing no one could offer. It was a Tuesday night when Diego's world fell apart. He'd come home from robotics club around 8, excited about a programming breakthrough his team had made. The apartment smelled like his mom's arroz con pollo, and he could hear the television playing in the living room, but something felt off the moment he walked in. His mom was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had probably gone cold. Carlos was there too, which was unusual for a weeknight. He usually worked late on Tuesdays. Hey, Diego said, dropping his backpack. You guys okay? You look like someone died. His mom's eyes filled with tears and Diego felt his stomach drop. Mom, what's wrong? Is it Grandma? Sit down, mijo, Elena said softly. We need to talk to you about something important. Diego sat, his mind racing through possibilities. Were they moving? Getting divorced? Was someone sick? He looked between his parents, trying to read their faces. Carlos cleared his throat. Diego, your mom and I love you very much. Everything we've ever done has been because we love you and want what's best for you. You're scaring me, Diego said. Just tell me what's going on. Elena reached across the table and took Diego's hand. Her fingers were shaking. Do you remember the man from the grocery store? The one you met at the park on Sunday? Vincent? Yeah, what about him? Diego, Vincent and I dated 17 years ago, right before you were born. Diego felt something cold start to spread through his chest. Okay, so the timing of that relationship. Elena's voice broke. She looked at Carlos, who nodded encouragingly. Diego, Vincent is your biological father. The world seemed to tilt. Diego heard the words, understood each one individually, but together they didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense, no, Diego said. No, that's not. Carlos is my dad. I am your dad, Carlos said firmly. I've been your dad since you were 1 year old. Nothing changes that. But biologically, Elena continued, tears streaming down her face now, Vincent is your birth father. I was pregnant when I left New York 17 years ago. I didn't tell him. I didn't tell anyone except my family. Diego pulled his hand away from his mother's. You lied to me. All these years you lied. We protected you, Carlos said. There's a difference, is there? Diego's voice was rising now, anger flooding through him like hot water. You let me think my biological father just wasn't around. That he didn't care. But he didn't even know? You never told him? It was complicated, Elena said. Vincent was homeless when I found out I was pregnant. He was living in his car, working minimum wage jobs, barely surviving. How could I tell him? You could have found a way. You could have. Diego stopped, his mind connecting dots he didn't want to connect. That's why he looked at me like that in the store. That's why he seemed so shocked. He just found out too? Elena nodded miserably. Diego stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is insane. This is completely insane. I met him, we talked. He knew, didn't he? When we sat on that bench and talked about coding, he knew he was my father and he didn't tell me. I asked him not to, Elena said. I asked him to give us time to tell you properly. Properly? Diego laughed, but there was no humor in it. How is any of this proper? You lied to me my entire life. Both of you. And now this stranger who I talked to for 20 minutes is supposed to be what? My real dad? I'm your real dad, Carlos said, standing up too. His voice was strained. Diego, look at me. I changed your diapers. I walked you to school. I taught you to ride a bike and to throw a punch and to be a good man. That's real. That's more real than biology. Diego looked at Carlos, at this man who'd been his father for as long as he could remember. Carlos with his construction worker hands and his terrible jokes and his unwavering presence at every school event, every birthday, every normal Tuesday night. And Diego felt something crack inside him because Carlos was right. Carlos was his dad in every way that mattered. But Vincent was his father too. And that fact changed everything. I need to think, Diego said, grabbing his backpack. I need to not be here right now. Diego, don't leave, Elena pleaded. Let's talk about this. Talk about what? About how you stole my entire identity? About how I don't even know who I am anymore? You're the same person you were yesterday, Carlos said. No, I'm not. Yesterday I knew who I was. Today I don't know anything. Diego walked out of the apartment, ignoring his mother's calls to come back. He made it to the stairwell before the tears came, hot and angry and scared. He sat on the stairs and cried like he hadn't cried since he was little. Great heaving sobs that shook his whole body. His phone buzzed. His mom, probably. Or Carlos, he ignored it. It buzzed again. And again, finally he looked. But it wasn't his parents. It was Vincent. A number Diego had saved after their conversation at the park, just in case he wanted to ask about that coding problem they'd discussed. The text said, I know they told you. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. If you want to talk, I'm here. No pressure, Diego stared at the message. This man, this stranger who had his eyes and his love of technology and apparently his DNA, was reaching out. Careful, kind, giving him space even though he probably had to do anything but. Diego didn't respond. He couldn't, he didn't know what to say. He ended up walking. Just walking through the neighborhood as it got dark. Past the bodega where he bought snacks after school. Past the community center where he used to play when he was little. Past the church where his grandmother still went every Sunday. Everything looked the same but felt different. Like he was seeing it all through new eyes. Around 10, he found himself at the park. The basketball court was empty, the chains on the nets rattling in the wind. Diego sat on the same bench where he'd talked to Vincent 2 days ago. 2 days. His entire life had been rewritten in 2 days. His phone buzzed again. This time it was his best friend, Tyler. "Dude, where are you?" "Your mom called my mom," freaking out. Diego typed back, "I'm fine. Just needed to clear my head." "What happened?" Diego stared at that question. What happened? Where did he even start? Found out my dad isn't my biological father. Found out my biological father is some tech millionaire who I randomly met at a grocery store. Normal Tuesday stuff. What? Yeah, do you want me to come meet you? Diego thought about it. Tyler was his best friend since 3rd grade. Tyler knew him better than almost anyone. But even Tyler couldn't help him process this. Nah, I just need to think. Okay, but call me if you need anything. And maybe let your parents know you're alive. My mom says your mom is losing it. Diego reluctantly texted his mother. I'm okay. Just needed space. I'll be home soon. She responded immediately. Thank God, take your time. We love you, we love you. They loved him. He knew that. But love didn't erase lies. Love didn't make this less confusing. Diego pulled up Vincent's contact on his phone. He stared at the name, at the profile picture that showed a man in a business suit smiling at the camera. This was his father, his biological father, a man who had money and success and a daughter who'd somehow recognized Diego as family before anyone else did. That little girl, Lily, she was his sister, half-sister. He had a sister and he hadn't even known it. Diego clicked on Vincent's text and started typing, then deleted it. Started typing again, deleted it again. What was he supposed to say? Finally, he just wrote, Did you know when we talked at the park? The response came within seconds. Yes, I'm sorry. Your mother asked me not to tell you yet. I should have told you anyway. Why didn't you? Because I wanted what was best for you and I wasn't sure if knowing was best. I was wrong. You deserve the truth. Diego appreciated that. The honesty. The admission of being wrong. Carlos never admitted when he was wrong. He just plowed forward with stubborn determination until everyone else gave in. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information, Diego typed. You don't have to do anything. You don't owe me anything. I'm not trying to replace your dad or disrupt your life. Too late for that second part. I know. I'm sorry. Diego sat with that for a minute. Then he asked the question that had been burning in his mind since his mother told him the truth. If you had known about me, would you have wanted me? The 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, yes, without question. Even when I had nothing, I would have tried. I would have wanted you. Diego felt tears prick his eyes again. He angrily wiped them away. My mom said you were homeless when she found out she was pregnant. I was. Living in my car. Barely making it day to day. She was trying to protect both of us. Do you hate her for not telling you? A long pause. No, I understand why she did it. I wish she'd trusted me to step up, but I understand. Do you hate her? Diego thought about that. Did he hate his mom? He was angry. Furious even. Felt betrayed and lied to and like his whole life had been a fiction. But hate? I don't know what I feel, he typed back. That's fair. This is a lot to process. Your daughter, Lily, is she okay? She keeps asking when her brotherly kin is coming over. She doesn't understand why she can't see you. Something about that made Diego smile despite everything. This 6-year-old girl had taken one look at him and known they were family. While all the adults had been lying and hiding and protecting, she'd just seen the truth. She seems like a good kid, Diego typed. She is. She's the best thing in my life. And you? The typing stopped, then started again. I know I don't have the right to say this, but you seem like a good kid too. Your mom and Carlos did a great job raising you. Diego felt something complicated twist in his chest. Carlos did his best. He's not perfect, but he was always there. That's what matters. They texted back and forth for another hour. Vincent told him about building his company from nothing, about the years of struggle and the eventual success. Diego told him about school, about robotics club, about his dreams of studying computer science in college. It was easier to talk through text with distance and screens between them, Less overwhelming than sitting face to face. I should go home. Diego finally typed. My mom is probably having a breakdown. Probably. Will you be okay? Eventually. Maybe. If you want to talk again about any of this, I'm here. Okay. Diego walked home slowly, dreading the conversation he knew was waiting. When he opened the apartment door, both his parents were still at the kitchen table looking exhausted and worried. I'm home, he said quietly. Elena jumped up and hugged him hard. I was so worried. Don't do that again. I needed space. I know. I know you did. She pulled back, looking at his face. Have you been crying? Yeah. Carlos stood up too, but he didn't reach for Diego. There was something hurt in his eyes, something that made Diego's chest ache. Did you go see him? Vincent? No, but we texted. He told me his side of things. And what did he tell you? Carlos's voice was careful, controlled, but Diego could hear the fear underneath. That he didn't know about me. That if he had known, he would have wanted me even when he had nothing. That Mom was trying to protect both of us. Elena's face crumpled. I was, mijo. I swear I was. I know, Diego said, and he did. He understood it, even if he didn't like it. But you should have told me eventually. Before I found out like this. You're right. We should have. Elena wiped her eyes. We kept putting it off, thinking we'd do it when you were older, when you could understand. But there was never a right time. Carlos crossed his arms. I didn't want to tell you at all. I wanted you to just be my son, not his. I am your son, Diego said. Carlos, you're my dad. That doesn't change, doesn't it? Carlos's voice cracked. Now you know there's someone else out there. Someone successful and rich who shares your interests in ways I never could. How do I compete with that? You don't have to compete, Diego said. You already won. You were there. You raised me. He's just some guy with my DNA. But even as he said it, Diego knew it wasn't entirely true. Vincent wasn't just some guy. He was the reason Diego loved coding. He was the reason Diego had those specific eyes and that specific chin. He was a question mark that had been hanging over Diego's whole life. And now the question had an answer. I don't know what I want, Diego admitted. I'm angry at everyone. At Mom for lying. At Vincent for existing. At Carlos for not being my biological father. None of that is fair, but it's how I feel. That's okay, Elena said. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel however you feel. What happens now? Diego asked. Does Vincent want to be part of my life? Do I have to see him? Do I have a choice in any of this? You have all the choices, Elena said firmly. This is your life, Diego, your decision. If you want to get to know Vincent, we'll support that. If you don't, we'll support that too. Carlos looked like he wanted to argue, but he closed his mouth and nodded stiffly. What about legally? Diego asked. Can he sue for custody or something? He could try, Elena said. But he'd told me he doesn't want to. He said he just wants to know you if you want to know him. No courts. No forcing anything. Diego thought about Vincent's texts. The careful way he'd offered to talk without pushing. The way he'd acknowledged Carlos as Diego's real dad. The way he'd apologized for the disruption even though none of this was really his fault. I think I want to meet him, Diego said slowly. Properly. With Lily just to see. I don't know what I want to see. But I need to. Carlos flinched like he'd been hit, but he nodded. Okay, Carlos, Diego said, looking at the man who'd raised him. You're still my dad. You're still the person I come to when something's wrong. You're still the one who taught me how to be a man. That doesn't change. But he's going to teach you about computers and coding and all the things I can't teach you. So what? You teach me about building things with my hands and working hard and showing up even when it's hard. Different things, not better or worse things. Carlos's eyes got wet, which Diego had only seen happen twice in his life. I'm scared of losing you. You're not going to lose me. I promise. They stood there in the kitchen, the three of them, trying to figure out how to be a family when the definition of family had just gotten more complicated. Diego's phone buzzed. He pulled it out and saw a message from Vincent with a photo attached.